This may be the biggest thing that's ever happened.
Wherever there is injustice, you will find us. Wherever there is suffering, we'll be there. Wherever liberty is threatened, you will find
The three AmiVO's. Dave McRae, Garnet Williams, Mike Pongracz. Separately, they are humble Canadian voiceover superstars. Together, they are the three AmiVO's.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
And now, the AmiVO's and Friends Super-Funtastic Happy Hour VOdcast.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Hit it.
And with that, let us begin the inaugural three AmiVO's Super-Funtastic Happy Hour Fun. No, what is it? No. Now I can't even get the name of the title right.
The three AmiVO's and Friends.
Three AmiVO's and Friends Super-Funtastic Happy Hour VOdcast.
Yes, that's it. Yes,
it's a long one. That's what she said. And there's the humor.
Really, we're starting the inaugural podcast with a dick joke. Really? Classy.
Classy. It's classy, ladies and gentlemen. Here they are, the three AmiVO's.
Welcome. Now, welcome to the inaugural podcast. Well, we promised there would be fun and humor. We didn't exactly say it was going to be G-rated. Broadcasting to you live from north of the 49th parallel. Is that what we are, north of the 49th?
I was under the assumption there would be no math.
I think we should stick to what we know.
Fair enough. We are the three AmiVO's. In Brantford, I am AmiVO Mike Pongracz. In Georgetown, AmiVO Dave McRae.
Hello, everybody.
And in Hamilton, Ontario, AmiVO Garnet Williams.
Olé.
Welcome to the inaugural podcast. Yes, it's... I apologize. I didn't mean to pull a Michael Scott joke right out of the bag, so... I use the word bag.
Oh, maybe we should start again. Oh, no. No, that's not. Let's just keep going.
We're going to try and do something a little bit different. There's a lot of great podcasts out there. Voiceover Cafe, VOBuzz Weekly, the East West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard, George Whittam. So we're going to try and put, I guess, a Canadian spin on it, a little bit of learning, a little bit of discussion using, various social media and things that we've seen and things that people have written as sort of fodder for this. And hopefully as we get further on into the podcast, inviting some guests along to share in on the discussions. But to start, I think we probably should, give the listenership a reason to trust or at least have an inkling of faith in what we say based on our experience. So before the podcast, AmiVO Garnet had a brilliant idea in that you likened it to what? It was...
like in comic books or cartoons, everybody likes to hear the origin story.
Right.
Like how Superman came from Krypton, or how Bruce Wayne's parents were gunned down when he was a child. You want to know what made them.
Or how SpongeBob got to the bottom of the sea.
Exactly. Those origin stories, people want to hear how you became who you are.
Well, in that case, why don't we now find out just where the three AmiVO's came from.
In a world where one man, where one woman, where one... wait a minute. One woman? Oh, wait. Oh, okay, sorry, I was reading the wrong thing. Okay, here we go.
And take two.
And now, live on the first AmiVO's podcast, you are about to hear the origin story of AmiVO Dave McRae. Let's get this out of the way now, so we don't have to listen to this crap again.
Dave McRae.
So here is my origin story. I'm going to keep this really quick if I can.
Oh, for God's sake, shut up and get on with it! How much crap do we have to listen to around here?
Grandpa, shut up! This is my origin story, okay? Not yours, baby!
So I was always the kind of kid that was really into doing voices, and I was always really into movies as well. I mean, my parents certainly got their money's worth when they'd rent me a movie. I was the kind of kid that would, watch it over and over and over and over and over and over. But I was always into doing voices as well. And, I wasn't an only child, but my siblings were so much older than me that by the time I was like 8 or 9 years old, they were already in their 20s or close to it. So I was the kind kind of kid that, did a lot of playing by himself. I entertained myself with my mother's old 1980s boombox. And then about the mid-80s, my sister came home with this General Electric tape recorder, and that was mine. It was called a Kidcorder, and I was really, really excited about it. And that's when I started to record my own voice and make up stories as I went along. By the time I was in high school, I was making home movies with all my friends as the actors and that kind of thing. And I was developing my voice. I was getting to know my voice over that period of time. So then by the time I wanted to go to college, I knew that I wanted to get into broadcasting, whether it was radio or television or film or that kind of thing, so I knew that I was going to go to school for that. And what's really cool is that when I was having my interview with one of the professors of the school that I was going to be accepted for, I played him a taped announcement of something I did in high school because I was really into doing all the voices and things like that. So in high school, people got me to do a lot of taped announcement and hosting of fashion shows and Oscar nights and all this kind of stuff. And I could do the movie trailer voice. And during this interview, he said to me, "How did you digitally enhance your voice?" And I said, "I didn't." Ooh. I did 2 years of broadcasting. I did radio, television, film. I had my own radio show in college, but I wasn't happy with the program. So I decided to leave college and pursue my career from a different angle. So I decided to pursue my on-camera acting career after that. And that's what I was doing. So I went to Los Angeles and I was in a big acting convention where I won 5 awards, and I did some small-time corporate videos and some docudramas and some commercials and things like that. And then in 2003, I broke my teeth playing road hockey. I know, typically Canadian. I had to take a hiatus from the on-camera acting, and it was my mother, who has since passed on, but it was my mother who said to me, "Dave, I think you should get into the voice work full-time," because she always loved my voices and all the crazy voices I could do and, all the different kinds of voices. She thought I should get into voice work full-time. And I liked the idea. I thought it was a great idea, but I didn't know how to do it professionally. How do I go about it? What do I do? What do I need? Where do I go? Who do I see? And then I decided to pursue it full-time, really give it a shot in about 2004 because I had broken my teeth. And of course, I can't do the on-camera acting when I got holes in my face. So that's what I decided to do. I got a demo, which wasn't that great, but it was good enough to get me into an agency, to get me represented in around 2005. And then I got my first big break in 2006 when I became the promo voice of TLN in Toronto, which is Tele Latino. It's a Spanish and Italian network, but I became the imaging voice of their English content. And then I also landed another big break in 2006 when I had the opportunity to narrate 2 seasons of Final 24. There were only 2 seasons, and that aired on the Biography channel. That allowed me to go full-time, and I haven't looked back. Each year has gotten progressively better, and I have been a full-time voice talent now since 2006, and currently I am heard nationally as the narrator of 4 Weddings Canada, the commercial and promo voice for the Real Housewives of Vancouver. I am also the network promo and imaging voice for the Adventure Channel Travel and Escape, as well as the movie channel out west, which airs west of the Ontario-Manitoba border on Core Avenue. And in between all that, I do radio and television commercials and network promos, movie and game trailers, corporate presentation and training videos, and all that crazy, wonderful stuff that comes with voiceover. So that, in a nutshell, is my origin story. If there's one thing you take away from this amazing origin story, it is always listen to your mother!
Hey there, you want to talk origin stories? Well, have I got one for you. It's all about this kid. His name was Mike Pongracz. Grew up in a small town called Stouffville, Ontario. Actually, Musselman's Lake to be exact. Well, it all started back when he was just a young'un. He had himself one of them tape recording boxes where he'd do his best Rick D's and Casey Kasem countdown shows. He even did that goddamn dead dog dedication. Up there in Canada, they had these things called rod hockey games, kind of like them bubble dome hockey games you see nowadays at the bars. Well, anyway, he used to do play-by-play and color commentary while he played, which was pretty sad because he was an only child. That's like playing Marco Polo by yourself. Marco! Fast forward to school, he fell in love with the stage. He was an actor. He dabbled in the vaudeville. Well, sketch comedy as it's known these days. He always wanted to get into them talkie pictures, but he wasn't in Hollywood. He was way far away. And well, he opted for the land of the theater of the mind, otherwise known as the poor red-headed stepchild and far less profitable career of radio. He was a copywriter, a producer, and finally, a full-fledged DJ. As years passed, a colleague of his said, "Hey kid, you're pretty good with that voice thing of yours. Ever thought of getting an agent?" So having spent so many years on both sides of the microphone, in the booth and behind the board, he had himself enough material to put together a demo. And 9 months after planting that voiceover seed, an agency came a-calling to give birth to his professional voiceover career, minus the weight gain and the labor pains. From there, it was his ticket aboard a rocket ship to the voiceover moon. Commercials, e-learning, video games, TV shows. He's been the spokesvoice of a major cable company in the U.S. for a number of years. He's done national commercials for toy companies like Hasbro and Spin Master. He's the air hogs guy. Done series work for shows on Discovery Channel, MTV, and much music. He's even been fortunate enough to be the voice of an iconic restaurant chain up there in Canada. Hey, bada boom, bada bing. He's covered the entire gamut of voiceover, including being the image voice for national networks and specialty channels, including Animal Planet and Discovery Science. He's even been an animated chicken, and soon to be an animatronic gnome. So 2 years ago, when his squeeze, his gal, his darling wife told him to drop a deuce on his radio boss's desk, I'm slightly paraphrasing, of course, and have at it full-time in VO, well, he was tickled pink, and more than happy to oblige. Minus the poop, although it really was tempting. Since then, it's been an incredible whirlwind, almost like a nor'wester blowing in where you gotta have your slicker handy just in case. And along the way, he met a couple of swell guys who had the same abilities and passion for this business as he did. So they linked arms like the 3 male co-stars on the road to Oz, formed a Canadian triad of voice talent known as the 3 AmiVO's. Not bad for a small-town only child who grew up on Star Wars and Saturday morning cartoons. Not bad at all.
Okay, so the Garnet Williams origin story, let's see. Mother's Scottish, father's Welsh. That basically means I want to have sex with sheep, but I don't want to pay a lot of money for it. Thank you. Here all week, try the meal, tip your waitress. But seriously, kind of directionless at the end of high school, didn't know what I wanted to do. Guidance counselor asked me. I had no idea. He said, do you have a job right now? I said, yeah, I DJ at a bar. He said, have you thought about radio? No, I hadn't, but now I did, and off I went to radio school. Worked as an announcer and a producer and a writer, production manager at a few stations. That's the guy that records the announcers and makes the commercials, puts all the sound effects and music and stuff like that. Part and parcel of working in a radio station is sometimes having to lend your voice. Even though I wasn't a full-time announcer, I was working production. When you had a part of a commercial where 2 guys are just talking, they'd usually use me and a writer or somebody else that was hanging around to be like the everyday Joe kind of voice. I also did a lot of character voices when called upon.
Example. Scotland. The name of this ancient land conjures images of northern winds.
Ew. Do they always look like that inside?
Sounds like a job for Captain Can-Do. If you love model trains like I do, you best get to Modeler's Choice yourself.
End of example.
So every once in a while, we'd have the announcers come in and they'd say, oh, I got this freelance voice gig. Would you mind recording me and I'll slip you $50? And I was like, sure, no problem. Despite the fact that I was voicing stuff at the radio station, it never occurred to me that I could be voicing stuff freelance and making extra money on the side because, well, I'm not that smart. But once I clued in, I was off and running. I wrote and recorded my own demo, sent it off to an agency in Toronto, and next thing you know, I have representation. Despite the fact that I thought that my strong suit was my character voices, which I do get to use in some animation projects and some video game projects and stuff like that, I mostly get booked for my normal speaking voice, which, despite not being the big ballsy announcer voice, gets me a lot of work. I sound young. I still get cast regularly as a teenager or somebody in their early 20s.
But how did the AmiVO's become the AmiVO's?
Just so happens that AmiVO Mike and I knew each other from the radio side of things, and we ended up both being with the same agency, and we'd met several times at auditions, and that's how we ended up becoming friendly. And same with AmiVO Dave, with the same agency, knew his name, heard his stuff. So once the 3 of us came together like that, we were hired by a fellow named Charlie to be private investigators working for his company. Okay, I'm sorry. We decided to band together as the 3 AmiVO's. Not exactly an Oscar winner there, but that's my story.
Okay, so there you have it. That is the comic book, sort of audio comic book version of the 3 AmiVO's backstory, which I found kind of interesting what you were saying, AmiVO Garnet, which I can kind of relate to coming from sort of the radio background, is that whole notion that we produced our own first demos to get our jobs or to get our agents, which some people will say you probably shouldn't do it that way. But I think with our background, it was a little bit different.
Well, yeah, as 15 plus years as an audio producer, it's what I went to school for. It's what I was trained for. It's what led me into voice acting. It gave me 2 major advantages, I feel, as a voice actor. One, years of directing sessions allowed me to look at a script as a producer. So when I go into a studio and they hand me the script, I don't just look at it as a talent. I look at I look at it as a producer as well. So I kind of already have an idea of what they will need from me as a talent and what they're going to, how they're going to direct me, because it's what I'd do if I was on the other side of the glass. And the other benefit is being able to produce my own demos. Sure, saves you money, because let's face it, when you're putting together a demo, you got to hire somebody and they're going to charge you. And as a voice actor, if you can save a little bit of money by putting together your own demo, all the better. And every demo I've ever done, whether it was the first one I did to secure my place at an agency, or all the demos I've done since then, because I have an imaging demo, an animation demo, a commercial demo, a narration demo, e-learning demo, like what have you, even my video demo, which I did recently for the first time. But all of that stuff, I know what my strengths are, and I know how best to showcase them. So when I put together my own demos, I feel that I can do a better job than perhaps somebody that I would hire. I know not everybody has those skills, but it's definitely something that's helped me over the years.
Well, and that goes back to the whole idea that, I mean, I think AmiVO Dave, you had mentioned this. We talked about this once too. Is the whole idea that successful voice talent, or again, successful has a huge broad sort of range. Successful in the air quotes are the actors that have versatility, that are comfortable, I guess, comfortable with their own skin or with their own voice.
Well, like I said about knowing your own strengths, that's what Dave was saying, like knowing what you're capable of and being comfortable with.
Absolutely. I mean, if either of you guys, if I didn't know you guys, and either of you came up to me and said, Dave, someone's told me that I have a great voice and I want to get into voiceover and I have no experience and blah, blah, blah. What's the first thing I need to do? Because 9 times out of 10, they're thinking agents, they're thinking demos, they're thinking, maybe a workshop or something, which is good to think workshops.
What kind of mic do I need to buy?
What kind of mic do I need to buy? What kind of preamp do I need? What kind of this? What kind of that? And if somebody came up to me and asked me, what do I need to do to get into voiceovers? The very first thing I would say to them is, how well do you know your own voice?
Okay.
And I guarantee you 9.999 times out of 10, it would throw them off, because it's not the first question they're expecting. Because, I've come to realize about 5 or 6 years ago, I started teaching a one-day introductory workshop into the world of voiceover. And about 2 years into that, I started to realize that there are a lot of people out there who are interested in the craft, who want to get into the industry, who are passionate about it, but they've never heard the sound of their own voice objectively.
Okay.
They've never heard it from that objective point of view, whether it's from a home movie, whether it's from an analog cassette tape recorder, like when we were kids growing up, or whether it's a digital device of some kind or a professional recording studio. They've never heard the sound of their own voice. Some of them don't even like the sound of their own voice on their own voicemail. They call into their voicemail and they're like, oh my God, that's what I sound like. I can't stand my voice. If you don't like the sound of your own voice, then the last thing on your mind should be a microphone, a preamp, a demo, an agent. The first thing you need to do first is you need to get used to the sound of your own voice. You have to get comfortable with it. You have to know it. Because when you get into an audition process or a session process, which is a paid gig, if you put that headset on, and because you don't only hear the engineer in the headset, you hear yourself in the headset. You don't only hear the client in the headset, you hear yourself in the headset. And if you don't like the sound of your own voice, or if you're not used to it, or if you're uncomfortable with it, that's really going to hinder you in an audition or a paid gig process. And you're going to look unprofessional, unprepared. If you don't even like the sound of your own voicemail, then you got to start at the bottom. And getting used to the sound of your own voice, you have to get used to it. You have to listen to it objectively. That's the first thing that newbies need to do first. And I don't care if somebody said to you, you have a great sounding voice. You need to get into voiceover.
Oh, that's the catchphrase,
That's the catchphrase. There's the cliche. There it is. I have a great sounding voice. It doesn't matter, because as I've said many times before, but for the first time here on the AmiVO podcast, as it's our, first one, there are, lots of voice actors out there with seemingly average voices who are hugely successful. And there are voice actors out there with, those typical cliche great voices who are struggling. It's not about your voice, ladies and gentlemen. It's about how good of an actor you are. It's what you can do with that voice. It's about interpreting a script, taking direction, learning, and knowing your voice. So feeling comfortable in your own skin, as Garnet alluded to there, is so important.
I can go out and buy like a $8,000 Fender Stratocaster, but if I never took a lesson, I don't know how to play it, what good is it, really? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But you'll look good.
Well, sure.
Those photos you post on social media look phenomenal.
But all joking aside, that actually is something that I want to take a quick little discussion about after the break here, is there are a fair amount of people through social media right now, Facebook, Twitter, just the way technology is played into sort of the voiceover community. There's a growing number of people that make themselves perhaps look better or give
try to.
Yeah, which is an interesting, I want to say it's a danger, but it's a trap that voice talent can fall into, which can actually hinder your career early on if you are new to the business by trying to be something that you're not.
Exactly.
Which is, if you're not comfortable with your voice and you're trying to portray yourself, you're trying to, portray yourself as somebody that actually is bigger, better, further along than you are, I think there's a definite danger in there. Let's take a quick break for an AmiVO Iceberg Tip. When we come back, though, I want to touch on something, actually a blog that, Garnet, you wrote last week about sharing too much on social media.
Yeah, basically social media is great, but and sure you should share, but there's certain things you shouldn't share. How much is too much?
I like that. I think, Garnet, you just thought-provoked Dave. More after this.
The 3 AmiVO's.
Warning. We'll be right back.
Changing the voiceover industry one toque at a time.
We're going to take a little break, but we'll be back in a while, so don't nobody go nowhere.
Here's another 3 AmiVO's Iceberg Tip.
The voiceover industry is all about respect. So right away, respect the industry that you've chosen to be a part of. Respect your abilities and what you can bring to the table. Respect your peers. Respect your clients. Without them, you wouldn't be here. And finally, respect your career and treat it like one. Aretha was right.
All I'm asking is for a little respect.
Welcome back to the podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking a little bit about how social media like Facebook, Google+, Twitter, how sharing information, sharing feelings, opinions, thoughts, it's a good thing, but sometimes maybe you can share too much. And Garnet, you wrote a blog about that topic last week.
Just, again, this is my thoughts, my feelings from my experiences. I'm not trying to impose my will on anybody else. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but basically, if you're going to use Facebook, and this is my decision when I decided to go pro as a voice actor and have Facebook be a very prominent tool in my arsenal as a voice actor. I tried to keep it professional. I obviously want to share a little bit about myself because just talking business all the time can be boring. So you want to share some of your personal likes and dislikes, and pop culture, current events, whatever you throw in there. But at the heart of it, you want it to be user-friendly. You want people to find it interesting, and you want to try and keep it positive. And I find a lot of people tend to stray off that path, and I just, in my blog, I listed a few things that I personally try and stay away from. Right out of the gate, numbers 1 and 2, religion and politics. There are no two bigger topics that can polarize people and turn them into adversaries. And it doesn't even have to be that overt in your politics or your religion or whatever. Just making a simple statement If somebody else doesn't share that, it's enough to get them to unfriend you. If it's a potential client, it's enough to get them to not want to hear anything else you have to say. So I just tend to leave those things completely out of my social media postings. Something else is, what was it? The third one, oh yes, I remember. Maladies, health issues, stuff like that. It's fine if you go online. I believe I did with you guys. I had a really wicked bad sore throat, and
I remember that
a couple weeks ago, and I was looking for help with remedies, and that's fine. That's an occupational hazard for us voice actors. But when people start going on there and saying, yeah, so I had to go in and get my small intestine taken out, and boy, that was I don't really care to hear about that. I really don't. That's maybe something you share with your family and your doctor. Another thing is relationship issues. Somebody posted, hey, my wife and I just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and I was the first one on their wall to say congratulations, hope you make it another 10 years. But some other hamster of a man got online and said my wife or my girlfriend dumped me, and I don't know where it went wrong, and for the next 3 days, that's all he posted.
Yeah.
Was like, I miss her and the house is so empty and it's stuff like that. And it's like, you know what, dude, I really don't care, because this is supposed to be your professional outlet for your voice acting business, and all you're doing is whining about your failed relationship. This perhaps is not the place for that. Another thing that I don't much care about, hold on, I was going somewhere with this. Pause. Oh, yes. Failed auditions.
Yeah.
You know what?
As
a voice actor, how many auditions do you do in a day, in a week, in a month that you don't get the gig? Dozens, hundreds. But you know what? If you post about every single audition you don't get, you're going to break the internet.
It's true.
So
it's true. But you want to know something to sort of capitalize on that last point. I think there are a lot of voice actors that look, we're very fortunate that we're working a lot, but there are a lot of voice actors out there that are not, and not that we don't audition a lot as well. And I don't get every audition that I do, and I know that Mike and Garnet don't get every audition they do.
Oh yeah.
But I think for a lot of people, they're at points in their careers where auditioning is they feel like it's post worthy, and they feel they have to post about every audition they do, or every audition they don't get, or I think a lot of people use Facebook as a form of sort of social acceptance. They air their dirty laundry, and whether it's relationship issues or whether it's that issue or this issue, I think a lot of people, look to Facebook for social acceptance. The comments make them feel good. The likes make them feel good. Whatever the issue is, if they don't get an audition and they get 220 likes or 30 likes or 25 comments, hey, it's okay, chin up, keep going, that's okay, it's okay. It could just be 25 it's okays, and it makes them feel good.
I understand that. I do, but
sure,
it's okay to do every once in a while, but there's people out there that every time they don't get something, they post it.
That's right.
And it's like they're trolling for sympathy.
That's right.
And all it does to me, maybe I'm just too cynical, but I don't post my failures. I post my successes because I'm basically an egotist. Most people that work in voiceover, they have a bit of an ego and they want to get a slap on the back. And we'll touch on that later in this podcast with the fridge.
Right.
But they're looking for that pat on the back and they're looking for that congratulations. But I don't want to be consoled if I didn't get a gig that I auditioned for. I'd rather just not mention it and focus on the next gig rather than wallow.
Well, and I think too, one last point I want to make is that if you are marketing yourself as a professional, okay, and if you are a professional voice artist and you are marketing yourself as a professional, the last thing you want to do is to market your failures over and over and over.
Exactly.
Even though it's just to the voiceover community, but if you were a plumber or if you were, an electrician or whatever, you wouldn't didn't post the failures on your website about, I almost fixed that sink today, but I didn't quite get it, or I almost fixed that light socket, but I just, because you are a professional, you need to market yourself in a way that you are posting your successes, and not that not getting an audition is a failure. I mean, I think that's a bit too harsh of a word, but you didn't get the gig. And it's okay, as you said, to post every now and then, but I think there are a lot of these forums are sympathy groups, or they are becoming sympathy groups. Not everyone, and I'm not singling anyone out. This is nobody specific. It's just a general observation that that I have noticed over a certain period of time.
Want to take a quick break here, and we'll hit an AmiVO fun fact. And when we come back from the break, there was an interesting post on one of the groups today, the VO Pros group, which I believe was started by Terry Daniel, who co-hosts the VoiceOver Cafe, talking about one of his pet peeves, which ties in kind of nicely to the whole notion of social media sharing too much and maybe trying to present something that you're not. We'll talk about that right after this.
And now, it's time for another 3 AmiVO's fun fact.
Oh yeah, freak out! Hey, it's AmiVO Mike, and yes, I'm a longtime fan of professional wrestling. Now, while I never made it in the WWE as a wrestler, I did in fact make it onto a WWE DVD. The DVD in question, You Think You Know Me, The Story of Edge. I had the chance to share memories of my broadcast college buddy and fellow Canuck, also former WWE heavyweight champion Adam Edge Copeland, who by the way now stars on the show Haven on Sci-Fi. You might want to check it out. Oh, and by the way, I actually did have a professional wrestling match once. The people called me Fat Buddy Holly, though, which to this day is still the nickname that Edge calls me. I lost, by the way. And yes, it did hurt.
The AmiVO's and Friends Super-Funtastic Happy Hour VOdcast.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Hit it.
Welcome back to the podcast. Now, we were discussing before the break about Facebook and social media, how one can share, but also one can share maybe too much and sort of lose sight of what the good use of social media is for your career. An interesting post today on the VO Pros Facebook group, which is helmed by Terry Daniel, who's the co-host of the VoiceOver Cafe, along with Trish Bassani, another great podcast you should absolutely check out. He wrote, pet peeve, newbies writing expert blogs on the VO industry. Don't you have to find your own success before giving others advice? Laugh out loud, LOL. Which I know he's being funny there, but there definitely is a hint of truth. There's a fine line between dishing out information that you know from experience and dishing out information from stuff you may have read or heard somewhere else and passing it off as experience or knowledge.
And actually, I blogged about this. This is getting very meta right now, because I blogged.
Wow, that's a very technical term for a VO.
Went to school.
Meta,
but it's true.
Use it in a sentence, Garnet.
The topic I'm about to talk about includes the word meta.
Ooh.
There you go.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to do this one. I met a VO talent the other day. Who...
Oh,
nice.
Thank you.
A few weeks ago, I wrote a blog because I came across a blog post by another VO who tried to school people on microphones. And I'm not an expert. Believe me, Dan Leonard, George Whittam, these guys are experts on studio gear and stuff like that. But I know enough that reading his blog that he was talking out of his ass. And I just kind of got fired up, like just thinking that I don't profess to be an expert when I write blog posts. I only draw from my own experience and offer that up and let people make their own decisions. But this person wrote this blog as if they were an expert, and I knew they weren't. And a newbie that saw their post could be led astray. And that kind of frustrated me, and that's why I blogged the way I did. So that's a danger, definitely, that if you're gonna try and write a blog responsibly, know what you're talking about, do the research, and definitely don't just try and wing it.
The pool, the voiceover pool is pretty crowded, and social media offers this amazing platform to help you stand out. However, there's a real danger in building this online presence that may not jive with your actual level of experience. Because it's real easy to talk yourself up on social media, but if you can't back it up and you get called on it, for example, if another voice talent refers a client that they can't service to you based on the fact that your social media profile, you look like you're a more experienced talent than you maybe are. You get into that job and then all of a sudden you can't deliver. That looks really bad. I mean, that can cause more damage than good.
One of the reasons why there are so many people out there that are trying to create the illusion that they might know more than they do is because voiceover is unappreciated, it's misunderstood, and it's unrecognized. And not by everybody, but I can't tell you how many people out there have said to me in the past, I didn't realize that the people doing voiceover, I didn't know that it was an actual job. I watch commercials, I listen to movie trailers, the voice just always seems to be there somehow. And they don't consciously realize that there is an actual job. There's a multi-million-dollar industry around this. So it's unrecognized, it's misunderstood, and that allows people who are maybe not as talented, because as you know, you can teach technique, you cannot teach talent. It allows people who have the passion and the desire to create the illusion that they might know more than what they really do, or create the impression that they're more knowledgeable than they really are. And my advice is always that if you're somebody that's looking to get into voiceover work, do your research on the individual who is saying that they are a coach. Do your research on the individual or individuals, that are marketing themselves as somebody who can help you, because, you want to be able to have a mentor or have somebody help you who is somebody that has experience in the industry and they have the qualifications to back it up. They can show you the work they've done, the TV stuff they've done, the radio stuff they've done, that's so important. But there's this, this bad habit of dare I say it, newbies or wannabes. I know that's not a positive word to say.
No, wannabes is very accurate.
Absolutely. And they're looking to get into the industry and make a mark, and they are creating this illusion of information that if you did a little research on your own, you could find for free on the internet anyway.
See, this goes back to, to end around back to the social media discussion. Social media is a great marketing tool, especially if it's used properly. But it's a marketing tool to be used once you have something legitimate to market. There's no sense in trying to give off this impression that you're further ahead or you're more experienced or you have more to offer than you really do just to fit in, because it's real easy to find out even by going to your website or going to any of your online profiles that have demos. It's pretty easy to figure out if you're legit or if you're not.
Go through the process because it's learning. You can't jump the steps. You have to network. You have to meet people. You got to walk into the room and say, hey, I'm new. I don't know anything. I have a passion for this. I have a desire for this. I'm motivated. I would love to do what you guys do, or to get to this point, or to have this job, or get a commercial, or get a movie trailer. Or I'd love to. But if you present yourself as someone who's new, or as, a guy or a girl who's wanting to get into the business, people are going to be more accepting of you. And people who are working at that, level, are going to want to be able to help you and want to be able to talk to you more and include you in on things. But if you start marketing yourself as somebody who's been doing this and who has a body of work, or, a guy or a girl who should have a body of work the way you market yourself, and you don't, we can see through that. And it's very clear. I have much more respect for somebody who comes in and says, hey, I want to learn. What can you teach me? Than somebody that comes in and says, hey, I know what you know, and it's clear that they don't. So you really got to be careful. You really do, because as Mike said, it could damage you, if you're not careful.
I find it very off-putting. I think I've paid my dues. I've been doing this since 2005 as a professional, and it's only been in the last year that I actually got comfortable enough to blog and put that out there for others and to, you know, accept their feedback and their critiques on my thoughts and my experiences and my feelings. Again, I don't tout myself as an expert on anything, but just I got to a point where I was comfortable enough in my body of work that I felt that I had something to offer to other people in the industry. And it's people that come out of the gate.
That's right.
People that come out of the gate that don't really have that resume built yet, but they're offering tips, or they're putting YouTube videos up, or they're espousing this microphone over that microphone over people like, you know, Dan and George with their audio body shop. And it's just you know what? I can't give you my time because I know that you haven't earned it. And it's just about taking those steps.
And there are so many people that are blogging. There are so many people that are blogging now. And it's this mixture of people who really do have the credentials, and people who are just trying to fit in. And there's really there are exceptions, but it's very hard to offer any new tips if you're somebody who is trying to create the illusion that you know more than you do, because you tend to settle on the obvious stuff. And you tend to settle on stuff that just really, it's not a tip. It's just you stating what everybody already knows, you know? So, that's really tricky.
Just to wrap this up, Garnet, it's like you said, it's rather than try to talk about stuff that you don't know, share your experiences.
Bottom line, if you're going to use social media, that's awesome. Share some of yourself, educate, enlighten, entertain, but don't pass yourself off as an expert unless you've done the research just to try and gain acceptance. Because you know what? The people that have been doing this for a while, they're going to see you as, you know, what you are, which is somebody that doesn't really have the credibility to back up what you're trying to put out there. Baby steps. You know what? You'll get there. Build up your body of work, and then everybody will be happy to, you know, have you sit at the table. That's how I found it.
Be yourself.
Be yourself.
Be yourself.
Be yourself. It's great life advice no matter what vocation you choose. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Before we go, a couple things want to touch on. First off, VoiceOver Fridge.
Yes. The VoiceOver Fridge is a 3 AmiVO's production or presentation. During one of our inaugural VOdcasts, we came up with the idea of, there's been several, we came up with the idea that basically all of us, we were class clowns at some point that liked attention. We liked being in the spotlight. We're actors. We crave the attention. And I equated it to little kids coming home from school with a test or an assignment that they did really well on. And they said, "Hey, Mom and Dad, look at this. I got an A+. Can we stick it on the fridge?" And boom, the VoiceOver Fridge was born. So if you're on Facebook, which you probably are, and you have done something that you're proud of, which you probably have, we would love you to come and join us on the VoiceOver Fridge and show us your work. There are no critiques. There is nothing but acceptance there. It's just a place to showcase work that you're proud of and get patted on the back and patted on the head and, get a gold star on your paper, because that's what it's all about. It's about voiceover actors appreciating other voice actors' work.
And it also takes a lot of that from other groups where you can actually are more for education and information as opposed to, showing stuff that you've done. So we'd like to think we're kind of weeding out all the, hey, look, Mom, this is what I did stuff, and leaving the other groups for strictly educational and information. Not that you won't get that from watching somebody else's work, because, I mean, you can always learn a tip or two or get some inspiration from somebody else's body of work. But this is just a place, hey, you know what? If you're proud of something that you've done, by all means, post it on there and get a couple of likes and maybe some comments too. One more quick thing. AmiVO Dave, you are speaking at Voice World Toronto coming up when that's May
4th. I am. I'm speaking at the Voice World Toronto conference at the Hilton Hotel in downtown Toronto on Saturday, May the 4th. And I will be speaking there with Dan Leonard. I will be speaking there with Stephanie Cicerelli, David Cicerelli, Pat Fraley from Los Angeles is coming in, the man of 555 million voices. I think it's going up now as we speak. And
well, it's inflation, voiceover inflation.
It's when he comes to Canada. It tends to.
It's the currency exchange.
Right. Exactly. The voice exchange. I'll be speaking there with Sunday Muse, a whole bunch of us, and great presentations. Deb Monroe, Ellie Ray Hennessy. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll be talking about knowing your voice and the reality of the industry and that kind of thing. So that's Saturday, May the 4th at the Hilton Hotel in Toronto, and you can go to voiceworldtoronto.com to register if you haven't already and you would like to attend. It's going to be an exceptional conference, and I highly recommend it for those of you who are newbies and are looking to learn more from those of us who have been doing it a long time. So I think it's a great opportunity.
If you would like more information on the Three AmiVOs, you can go to our website, 3amivos.com. That's the number 3, AMIVOS.com. Also, our personal pages, AmiVO Dave, it's thevoiceman.com.
It's the Voice Man, man with 2 N's, so thevoiceman.com, and davemcrae.ca. McRae is MCRAE, davemcrae.ca. And those are my 2 websites if you would like to know more information about me, and my work is there, of course.
And Garnet, yours is williamsvoiceovers.com, correct?
That is correct.
Simple. See, at least that one I can get right. Mine, allthingsmike.ca for now. It will be changing in the very near future to nothingmike.ca.
Nothingsmike.ca.
To nothing. Mike's getting rid of his website.
Exactly. I'm getting out of the VO business. I'm going to go and start a Facebook group where I'm going to espouse that I'm a really great plumber, except some of the
jobs. A former disgruntled voiceover artist.
Yeah, and some of the jobs I did didn't exactly work out well. I tried to stop a leak. All things kidding aside, if you want to get a hold of us, 3amivos@gmail.com. Sorry, the 3amivos@gmail.com. For AmiVO Dave McRae in Georgetown.
Woo! Arrah! Ole!
And for AmiVO Garnet Williams in Hamilton.
Sounds like the Wilhelm scream.
Yes, I'm AmiVO Mike Pongracz in Brantford, and apparently free trade is alive and well. With this podcast, wishing you all a very hearty Ole!
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 We are finished. We are over.
It's over.
The AmiVO's and Friends Super-Funtastic Happy Hour Vodcast has been brought to you by the Three AmiVO's.
Show's over.
It was written, recorded, edited, and produced from deep within the Great White North by Dave McRae, Garnet Williams, and Mike Pongracz.
Are we going bye-bye?
For more AmiVO fun, questions, or comments, check us out online at 3amivos.com. On Twitter at the 3amivos. Until next